think so. We can walk around there. We can go see. Yeah, this is the shuttle Breckenridge, they call it. Can't build enough stuff here. Marble.
So then, was it several years before you got back again, or did you get to come every year?
Well, no, I can't. Yeah, it was after.
That was great. I love that. All right.
Did you read the story of the diagrams?
Engine 641 ran on these very tracks up until 1962 and was parked where it currently sits today until was parked there in 1963. Also, there is a mountain range we cannot see behind Engine 641 up there on the uphill side. This is the Mosquito Mountain Range, and the really good news is that is the mountain range we are going to go through today. So hopefully it has now been converted into condos. And those who live there now do say that some of those past residents still roam the halls. All three engines are GP9 diesel electric engines. Right now we are entering into a lodgepole pine forest. Lodgepole pine trees are easily identified by their very straight trunks and their yellowish green needles. Lodgepole pine trees can grow up to 150 feet tall and live up to 400 years. All of the miners before Avery had left this area because there was no obvious gold to be found. If we were to travel just a few more miles north of here, further up our tracks, we would come to the headwaters for the Arkansas. The Arkansas in this area is fed mostly by snowmelt. All of the wooden trestles on our line have been covered up and new tracks lay over top of them, as a wooden trestle was very difficult to maintain during the long winter months of the Rocky Mountains. As the trees are completely connected by their roots, and this does make them one complete living organism. Each and every aspen grove has its own unique DNA. This day, DNA determines when that grove will bud out in the spring, what shades of green they will turn over the summer, and what shades of yellow, orange, and red they will turn in the fall. And lastly, when they will drop their leaves for the winter. Now the Rio Grande was located just down there above the highway on the valley floor. The South Park agreed to pay all track and usage fees, and this really was a good deal for both of the railroads. Until one day it was not. The South Park just case would make it all the way to the Supreme Court, where they would rule in favor of the Rio Grande, forcing the South Park to pay back all missing track and usage fees. Once all the legal battles had settled, the South Park said enough is enough, and they decided to build their own rail line, and that is what we are riding on today. And they started construction on this line in 1881. They finished this line one day before their the train that morning of the fire. It is also the road that they used to bring you up to top of the world platform, which is on the uphill side, guys, to start your zip line journey. At that time, you would make your way across 6 different platforms. You would at times be over 200 feet off the valley floor, and you would reach speeds up to 40 miles per hour. It was gravity fed from a reservoir much further up the gulch through a piping system. When this line was converted from standard gauge to narrow gauge in 1943, this water tower was moved to the downhill side of the tracks. As we pass through, you guys may notice that this water tower is not going to line up with our tracks whatsoever. And this is because an engineer and his brakeman left Climax Mine and they were headed for the roundhouse. They came around French Gulch and a huge washout occurred. They had one option, and that was to throw the brakes, jump from the train, and watch their engine and tanker car crash completely into the washout. In our concession car, so please check them out or feel free to ask Shannon when you pass through. Or even if you don't pass through, just check them out, they're pretty cool. But the best news of the day is that engineer's not driving today. All right, coming up shortly, we are going to stop. We're going to stop, so get ready for the big wow. We're going to stop in an aspen grove. It's the beginning of the Tunnel of Gold, and the colors are absolutely beautiful. Also, we're going to stop here for the 2.5-hour time sake. But if we were to travel just a few more miles up the tracks, we would come to the summit of Fremont Pass, and there sits Bartlett Mountain and Climax Mine. It was back in 1879 that a man by the name of Charlie Center staked a claim up on Mount Bartlett. He did not find gold or silver, but what he did find was a gray chalky substance. He did not know what this was, so he took it to the assay office in Leadville.
Do you see him?
No. Well, we got a long walk.
First part of a
Can always jump on the train.
like the whole boat.
Let's go down this trail. Where does it go? Oh, there is no trail.
See if we can get our name in front of our picture.
Our name. Oh, there's deer.
See the caboose.
Yeah, I don't want to go all the way down there.
Okay. See the old
Okay, you can go
telegraph.
back. I'm good. Hmm? Good.